Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Twits. Yesterday we read chapters 1, Hairy Faces, chapter 2, Mr. Twit, and chapter 3, Dirty Beards. Today we are going to be reading chapter 4, Mrs. Twit, and the Glass Eye. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, Mrs. Twit. Mrs. Twit was no better than her husband. She did not, of course, have a hairy face. It was a pity that she didn't, because that, at any rate, would have hidden some of her fearful ugliness. Take a look at her. Look at that picture of Mrs. Twit. Have you ever seen a woman with an uglier face than that? I doubt it. But the funny thing is that Mrs. Twit wasn't born ugly. She'd had quite a nice face when she was young. The ugliness had grown upon her year by year as she got older. Why would that happen? I will tell you why. If a person has ugly thoughts, it begins to show on the face. And when that person has ugly thoughts, every day, every week, every year, the face gets uglier and uglier until it gets so ugly you can hardly bear to look at it. First question today. Was Mrs. Twit always so ugly? Pause video now to write your answer. A person who has good thoughts can never be ugly. You can have a wonky nose and a crooked mouth and a double chin and stick out teeth, but if you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams and you will always look lovely. Nothing shone out of Mrs. Twit's face. In her right hand, she carried a walking stick. She used to tell people that this was because she had warts growing on the sole of her left foot and walking was painful. But the real reason she carried a stick was so that she could hit things with it, things like dogs and cats and small children. And then there was the glass eye. Mrs. Twit had a glass eye that was always looking the other way. Why did Mrs. Twit carry a walking stick? So you're going to find the words walking stick in the text, and that will tell you why she carried a walking stick. Pause the video now to write your answer. Chapter 5. Chapter 5, the glass eye. You can play a lot of tricks with a glass eye because you can take it out and pop it back in again anytime you like. You can bet your life Mrs. Twit knew all the tricks. One morning, she took out her glass eye and dropped it in Mr. Twit's mug of beer when he wasn't looking. Mr. Twit sat there drinking the beer slowly. The froth made a white ring around the hairs around his mouth. He wiped the froth on his sleeve and wiped his sleeve on his trousers. You're plotting something, Mrs. Twit said, keeping her back turned so he wouldn't see that she had taken out her glass eye. True or false? Mrs. Twit dropped her glass eye into Mr. Twit's mug of tea. Is that true or is that false? Pause the video now to write your answer. Oops. Whenever you go all quiet like that, I know very well you're plotting something. Mrs. Twit was right. Mr. Twit was always plotting away like mad. He was trying to think up a really nasty trick he could play on his wife that day. You'd better be careful, Mrs. Twit said, because when I see you starting to plot, I watch you like a wombat. Oh, do shut up, you old hag, Mr. Twit said. Mr. Twit's not a very nice person. He uses bad language. He went on drinking his beer, and his evil mind kept working away on the latest horrid trick he was going to play on the old woman. What does Mr. Twit do when he's plotting something? So plotting is when you're planning something, when you're planning to do something. So what does Mr. Twit do when he's planning an evil trick on Mrs. Twit? So you want to find the word plotting in the text and read around it, and it will tell you what Mr. Twit does when he's plotting something. Suddenly, as Mr. Twit tipped the last drop of beer down his throat, he caught sight of Mrs. Twit's awful glass eyes staring up at him from the bottom of his mug. It made him jump. "I told you I was watching you," cackled Mrs. Twit. "I've got eyes everywhere, so you better be careful." To be continued. Next time, we are going to read chapters 6 and 7. Bye.